Cherokee, who's going to speak about ex vivo gene therapy, as Jane mentioned earlier today. And Dr. Cherokee received her PhD in 2002 at Necker Hospital in Paris. And her research project is focused on the molecular characterization of cystinosis, which is a rare incurable genetic disease. It's a lysosomal storage disorder. And she's also generated a mouse model. She then specialized in stem cells and gene therapy during her postdoctoral internship at the Scripps Research Institute, where she was appointed assistant professor in 2009. And in 2012, Dr. Cherokee joined the University of California, San Diego, in the Department of Pediatrics, and became an associate professor in 2016. The focus of her lab is the use of stem cells and gene therapy for the treatment of multisystemic genetic disorders and the fundamental understanding of tissue repair by bone marrow stem cells. She is currently developing the first stem cell gene therapy clinical trial for cystinosis at UC San Diego, which is very exciting. And recently, with some of her colleagues, she published a seminal paper on the use of that approach in Friedreich's ataxia, which we're going to hear about a little bit more. Dr. Cherokee is the chair of the Gene and Cell Therapy of Genetic and Metabolic Diseases Committee at the American Society of Gene and Cell Therapy, and a member of the Scientific Review Board of the Cystinosis Research Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Cherokee.
Hello everybody. So I'm new to you because I'm new to the field of Friedreich's ataxia. And today I will spend a big part of my talk talking about cystinosis. And so you will wonder why I'm here talking about cystinosis. So I just want you to keep in mind that if I'm talking about cystinosis today, it's because everything that I'm going to show you, all the steps that we use to go from preclinical studies to the clinical studies, are the steps I'm going to use for Friedreich's ataxia. So that's why it's important that I'm going through all these steps and for you to understand what we are doing, because this is exactly what the path we are following for Friedreich's ataxia. So I just need to start my disclosure. So I am a co-founder of Gene Therapeutics and a consultant for AVROBio. What is cystinosis? And so cystinosis is what we call a multisystemic disorder. And here already we have a common parameter with between cystinosis and Friedreich's ataxia, because in this disease too, many organs are impacted by the disease. The second common parameter is that the gene, here we call CTNS, is expressed everywhere. And it needs to be, it's expressed in every single cell. So any treatment or therapy we want to develop needs to correct the gene in every single cell and in a lot of different tissues. Another common aspect is that the protein involved in cystinosis is in what we call an organelle in the cells. So in this case, it's a transmembrane protein that is in the lysosome. The lysosome is a recycling bin, in the cells. Here you have the mitochondria where we see the frataxin. And this produces the energy of the cells. So it's two different functions of the organelles. But at the end of the day, it's two organelles inside the cells. It's not, the protein is not secreted like, Jane was saying. It's not secreted by and can be recaptured. We are here also dealing with a protein that cannot be secreted and is attached to an organelle, like frataxin. So in the patient, we have mutation or deletion of a gene, and this causes the cystine, that it's an amino acid, to be stuck inside the lysosome. So this is what we call a storage disorder. So the cystine stay and accumulate in the lysosome, and this creates these crystals into the tissues. And because the gene is expressed everywhere, the kids develop multi-organ failure, and including the brain, the thyroid, the eye, they become blind. They have a kidney failure, so they require a kidney transplantation. And they also have a muscle weakness that leads to myopathy. So again, many traits also that can be related to Friedreich ataxia. So in the kids, because they have so many, they develop so many symptoms, they need what we call supportive therapy, and they also use a cysteamine drug that allows the cystine to leave a lysosome. But because the drugs have difficulty to penetrate in the tissue, it's just a delay the progression of the disease. But these patients have to take like 60 pills a day, and they, as I said, they eventually develop the disease. So the approach I always wanted to develop, and I have been always, my passion is in gene therapy, and that's why I did what I'm doing right now. In the case of cystinosis, when I wanted to develop a gene therapy approach, I realized that would be a very challenging disease to do that. Why? For all the reasons I just told you. It's a gene that needs to be replaced in every single cell, in many different organs, and it's a protein that's not secreted, so it's inside the cells. So how can you replace the protein in so many cells and organs? So this means that we need a vehicle to bring the healthy protein inside to all the tissues. And what vehicle do we all have in our body that can do the job? This is what we call the bone marrow stem cells. So I don't know if you heard about what the bone marrow stem cells are, but they are cells that reside inside our bones. So all of us have a bone marrow stem cell within our bones, and their job is that if you have any injury anywhere in your body, they will go and travel to the site of the injury, and they can target anywhere in your body. This is what makes this vehicle very efficient. They can go in any place of the injury. They can go and travel, and they are used in clinic. Let's say you have cancer, you will get a bone marrow transplant. What is a bone marrow transplant? Is that you need to have a chemotherapy, a few days of chemotherapy to remove your own stem cells, so they make space. And after they transplant the bone marrow cells to replace them. And after you have a bone marrow that they just transplanted to stay in your bone marrow for the rest of your life. And these cells can travel, as I said, in any other tissues. So you have different kinds of bone marrow stem cells. You have the whole bone marrow, the hematopoietic stem cells, and the mesenchymal stem cells. The hematopoietic stem cells, and that's why I will make a long story short, because we tried everything for cystinosis, but the one that worked are the hematopoietic stem cells, which was very surprising at the time. I thought it would be more the mesenchymal stem cells that make tissue cells. And why it was surprising is because the hematopoietic stem cells, they make white blood cells, red blood cells, or what we call, platelets and macrophages. Macrophages, I want you to remember this name because it will be important after. The macrophages are the cells that are supposed to eat, bad cells or, bacteria or something like that. But all these cells are cells that you find in your blood. So how can hematopoietic stem cells can treat disease where you have tissue degeneration? Believe me, before I started this project, nobody would have bet, one penny on the hematopoietic stem cell that cure cystinosis. So we did, as Jane said, the first step is a proof of concept. The proof of concept is you use a mouse model or an animal model to do a proof of concept. Before you go into any gene therapy approach, you first have to show if this is working or not. So the way to do that is to use a mice that is the same genetic background that your disease mice. So this is my mouse that has cystinosis, and these mice have exactly the same. So it's like what we call autologous transplant. So it's like the same cells, except that these mice have a normal cystinosis gene. Plus, we also have a green protein, so we can follow the cells after transplantation. So we make space. First, as I said, we do irradiation to remove the stem cells from the bone marrow, And then when you take the stem cells from these mice, they will go to the bone marrow and stay there for the rest of the life of the mice. So this is a permanent treatment because it's a one-time treatment. You put the cells into the mice and they will stay in the bone marrow. And my first surprise was when I checked the tissue of these mice after transplantation, I saw plenty of green cells into all the tissues, all of them, the brain, the muscles, the kidney, the spleen, the eye. And so that was the first surprise. And if you do the same thing to a healthy mice, you don't see these cells, in the tissues. So this means, this is what I said, the beauty of that is that these cells are intelligent. They will know when the tissue needs them, and they will travel to the tissue where they are needed, when they are needed. And so this is what we saw. The second thing that was really an amazing result was that here we measure the cystine content, as I said, it's a cystine storage, and the mice that receive the white type cells had up to 90% of decrease of the total cystine content in the whole tissue. So not only the stem cell go to the tissue, but they do their job. They release the cystine from the tissues. And then the last important thing is that, and all this study was done more than a year post-transplantation, so meaning that, at the end of the life of the mice. So it was one-time transplantation, and here when we study the kidney, this is a non-treated mice, so you don't need to be, experienced to see that, this tissue is very abnormal. And this is a treated mice with hematopoietic stem cells, and you see some focal anomalies, but the tissue function is normal. So not only we can release the cystine, but we can preserve the function and the structure of the tissue for the life of the mice. And this was one-time transplantation. We check also the FARA, again, non-treated mice, very abnormal tissue, and here normal structure and function. And the eye also, we could completely remove the crystals from the eye, and the eye function was normal. So what does that mean in patients? It means that we do one stem cell transplant, one marrow transplant, and that would be treatment for the rest of the life of the patients. But that's not that easy. How do you? The thing that, so when we started that, we thought that the FDA, before we go to gene therapy, we thought that the FDA would require what we call allogenic transplant, meaning that we would take cells, so in this case we opened actually a clinical trial at UCLA in 2012. Dr. Cohn and Dr. Moore were the bone marrow transplant person, and we wanted to take the cells from the healthy donor and to make the proof of concept that this would work in humans. But we wanted a very fully matched healthy donor, so we had all the patients we tested were not fully matched, so it took some years. And now we are so close to the gene therapy approach that we don't want to do that anymore. And why? It's because there is a high risk of death or morbidity, because of using someone else's hematopoietic stem cells. Because it's not yours, so you have an immune rejection or high risk of immune response by using that. So I'm not, you might be asked, because it could be something that you could consider for photic ataxia. I just advise you maybe to wait before you do that. First of all, because it's very dangerous, and we are working on towards the gene therapy approach. And second of all, we also need to understand how this works also for photic ataxia to make sure that this would work. So I'm just warning you that this is not be the thing to rush about. So in contrast, the thing that we want to do is to use the patient's own hematopoietic stem cells, so to use yours. And in a plethora dish, in culture dish, what we want to do is to correct the gene ex vivo. So in contrast to what James presented you with the AAV and the in vivo gene therapy, this is an ex vivo gene therapy. So the cells are corrected in petri dish. And to do so, we use what we call, I mean, for cystinosis at least, we use what we call a lentivirus vector. And so this is, the virus vector that, we have to use as a vector, as a vehicle. And for people, you probably don't know what is a lentivirus vector, but it's derived from the HIV vector. As we said, evolution is stronger than we are. So people are using bad virus and make them great tool for gene therapy. So of course, they remove any toxic gene, but they use the ability of this virus to be able to infect the stem cells. So we put the stem cells, in contact with this virus. The virus penetrates into the cells and integrates into the genome of the host. So that's why this treatment is permanent, because after the stem cell will carry the healthy gene all the way along, because now it's part of this genome. And then, of course, we will have a normal protein and, in this case, homocysteine release. So, in clinic, how do we do that? So, we have to take the patient's stem cells, so we mobilize the cells into the peripheral blood. The hematopoietic stem cells are taken, and then put in the petri dish with a lentivirus vector. And after you have a mixed population of cells that are corrected and cells that are not corrected. And that's what we call, that's the complication of the manufacturing, into this process. This is not trivial. This is a large, it's a large amount of work to be done. Then, as I said, we have to have a patient to get yellow ablation with chemotherapy, so it's like 3 days chemotherapy. And the cells are put back into the patients. So there are high risk of this procedure. So because it's the same patient cells, you don't have the immune risk, all the risk associated with allogeneic transplant. But when you do the chemotherapy, for like 3 weeks at least, you will be immunosuppressed, and you can have risk of infection. So during that period of time, you have to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks, from 3 to 4 weeks. You have to stay in the hospital. This is the risky part of this. Of course, you also have, risk of related to the gene therapy. Because this virus integrates into your genome, so you guys also the risk of where you integrate. But I have to say that since we've, the researcher switched to the use of lentivirus vector, there is, I knock on wood, but there is no major adverse event that occurred in the treatment of rare disease, because this is already happening, and it's already happening here at UCLA, for instance. I got my virus from Donald Cole, who works at UCLA, and it's a backbone of this virus is using it already in phase 3 ADA deficiency, for example, and use it also in sickle cell disease. So it's already in clinic. And by the way, for the clinical trial I'm putting together, this part will be done at UCLA, because you need what we call a good manufacturing practice room, GMP room, that we don't have right now at UCSD. So everything will be, this manufacturing will be done at UCLA. So as I said, the safety is for sure the main point of this. If we would have done because I think we have about more than 200 patients total, worldwide treated that way, and no adverse events. If we would have done the same thing with allogeneic transplant, we would have at least 20% of death so far. So, of course, we did, the proof of concept in the mice, using the stem cells, using our virus, and we showed that we could decrease cystine, improve renal function, and release the clear cystine crystals. So, we did the first step then towards a clinical trial. We contacted the FDA in 2013, and you saw that it's, years ago, so it takes some time. Especially it was my first time, so there were many things in the process that I had to learn. So after you have to turn all the good laboratory practice. You have to follow the rules of the FDA, and this is very complicated. But all the study that you do now, everything needs to be recorded and to be able to show the FDA this is safe, or, so there are many requirements that we had to follow. And we have to do the toxicology studies, and there are very specific toxicology studies that you have to do for this kind of ex vivo approach. And it's the same than no matter what disease you are doing. And this is what I'm saying. So now, all this part took me a long time, but now my lab is set up for it. So every single disease we were going to work on, we are, going much faster. So, the toxicology studies, include in the mice, and we also do a lot of studies in the human cells. First in healthy donors to optimize stuff, and after we need to do in the patient cells. So when we reach the time of patient cells, we need volunteers to give their blood, so we can get their hematopoietic stem cells, so we can optimize and make sure that the approach is working on their cells. So for the Cystinosis project, this is where we are. We have a consortium of people with 11 members. 10 of them are physicians, because I'm not. And we have to study, every single tissue in their body, so it's a lot of physicians. We have what we call the GMP virus, so we are ready to go for this is the virus we are going to use in patients. And we are almost done in the manufacturing development with Dr. Torrance, so this is, done. And we are almost at the end, so we are assembling the IND for the phase 1 clinical trial. And actually we are targeting to submit it next month. So it's a lot of work, hopefully we can do it, but so it's really close. Once we submit it, if the FDA approve, then we'll start the patient recruitment and enrollment and the phase 1-2 clinical trial. The trial will occur at UCSD, and we have a brand new hospital, the Jacob Hospital. So the cells will be, hematopoietic stem cells will be isolated at UCSD, shipped to UCLA. UCLA will ship us back the gene-corrected cells, and we will re-infuse them at UCSD. As I said, all the tissues will be analyzed by different doctors, and a lot of study will be done. We have the support of the Stanford Stem Cell Clinical Center, for this project, and so Stanford is a very rich man who supports stem cells, and he has 12 beds suitable for bone marrow transplant, ready to go for this trial. So everything is in place. So hopefully we start this year. So now I want to tell you how this works, how blood cells can do this, can preserve the tissue for the rest of the life of the mice. And why it's important is because of this mechanism of action that we realize that this is suitable for free ataxia. And so the first question was, what the hematopoietic stem cells become? Because they are blood cells, so why do we find them into the tissue? So we realized that the cells were actually, the green cells here, we characterized them into the tissue, which, kidney, eyes, thyroid, and we realized that they were macrophages, as I told you before. But it didn't make sense to me because macrophages eat cells, so how can they just, lead to the preservation of tissue? And so what, the hypothesis that was making sense was that there is a transfer of a healthy protein somehow from the macrophages to the disease cells, even though they are not secreted. So we tested this hypothesis in vitro, and we showed that when we put the cells together, so healthy macrophages with disease cells, we could release the cysteine from these disease cells. And so showing that clearly there is somehow a transfer of the protein from one cell to another. And when I was looking at the plate with my postdoc, we always saw this long tubular protrusion from the macrophages to the disease cells. And so we did some literature search, and we saw this, what they called tunneling nanotubes. And they describe these tunneling nanotubes as a connection between cells that can transfer many things, but including organelles. And among the organelles, you have a lysosome and you have mitochondria. So I was thinking that maybe the lysosome themselves can travel from the macrophage to the disease cells. So to test this hypothesis, we use a lentivirus vector containing the cystinosine GFP, so you make a fusion protein, so you like that, now your protein is tagged with a green, so you can see them. And we made the macrophage, and you see your macrophage, and you see these tiny vesicles going from the macrophage to the disease cells. And we characterized these tiny vesicles, and we showed that they were actually lysosomes. So we went back in vivo, and we said, is that the same thing in vivo? So when we looked at in vivo, and you see still this macrophage, so this is in the kidney, and you see that the macrophage makes tubes that can cross, and reach the disease cells. And these tubes, so it's true in the eye, and it's true also in the pharynx. So all the macrophage reach every tissue and make these tubes. And what we've shown is that, by using hematopoietic stem cells and again our fusion protein, we showed that, the bone marrow-derived cells that contain lysosome could transfer the healthy lysosome containing your healthy protein to the disease cells. And this is how we had a rescue of the tissues for the rest of the life of the mice. So if I summarize, like you do a bone marrow transplant, the cells go in the bone marrow. If you have a tissue injury, the cells migrate to the tissue, become macrophage, make these tubes, and deliver the healthy protein or the healthy organelles into the tissue, or into the cells, the disease cells, and so the disease cells can function normally. And you saw that one macrophage has multiple protrusion, so it's a very efficient process. And now we have done the same proof of principle on another lysosomal disease, and a group in Switzerland did, based on this work, did also on another lysosomal disease, also cure their mice. So it's a principle that was true for many other disorders. But as I said before, these tunneling nanotubes can transfer lysosome, but also mitochondria. So I was thinking, why not try on mitochondrial disease? And this is how I came across the free cataxia. So I did from about this is just a summary of what's going on. Hematopoietic stem cell reach the tissue, replace the bad macrophage. The bad macrophage, help remove the bad cells that are dying. They make these tubes, deliver the organelles, and the disease cells is no longer disease cells because now they are functioning organelles. So for free cataxia, so now we worked with the YG8R mice, which it's mice that don't have any frataxin gene, but they carry a human frataxin with expansion. And so this mice is quite a good model, from our point of view, they are all the pros and cons, but they recapitulate quite well the neurological defect. It's progressive, and you have a progressive neurodegeneration like you have in patients. So again, we went back to step one. We did the proof of concept using our green mice, the stem cells from our green mice. And we irradiate them to make space, remove their own stem cells, and we put our healthy stem cells. As control, you have no treated mice, or you have also mice that are treated with disease cells to make sure that it's not anything you are doing that make the mice get better. And so after we did the way to measure locomotor function in the mice, you do some studies, you put them in a box and you measure their activity. So these are the non-treated mice. These are the mice treated with the disease cells. And these are the mice that are treated with the healthy cells. And we tested them at 5 months of age and 9 months of age. And you can see that, the mice treated with the healthy cells were acting like the normal healthy mice. So, also for the coordination, also you put them in a wheel, and they just try to, stay in the wheel. And again, the wild type and mice treated with healthy cells are really, acting the same. The gait, again, we had a rescue of a gait in the treated mice. And the muscle strength. You also can test the muscle strength of the mice by, putting them and, you make them hold on and we can measure the muscle strength. And you can see here that we can rescue the muscle strength. These mice were treated at 2 months of age. So it was before they had any anomalies. So we show here that we can prevent the anomalies to occur. We also show, because you have a neurodegeneration in the dorsal root ganglia, and in the mice you see these vacuoles when you have neurodegeneration, and these are the non-treated mice, or the mice treated with disease cells. And we showed in the mice treated with healthy cells that we no longer had this neurodegeneration, which explains why the mice were acting normally. We also showed that we could rescue a partial, frataxin expression. And we also showed by many different assays that we had a normal mitochondrial function into the brain. As I said, the beauty of this treatment is that the cells can go anywhere. They don't, you don't need to do anything. They know where they have to go. So the heart and muscle is also suffering. So they are going to the heart and muscles. And I don't know if you can see well, but you have a lot of green cells also in the heart and muscles. Again, we can rescue the expression of the frataxin in these tissues, as well as the mitochondrial function. And here, for example, is in the heart of mice at 18 months of age. This mice was treated when it was 2 months of age. So it's like at the end of their life, and they had no iron deposition, very limited amount of iron deposition, showing that this was a long-term effect preserving the tissues. So here you see a brain, here dorsal root ganglia, because also these cells can reach the dorsal root ganglia, and the spinal cord. And in all these tissues you see plenty of cells, and we showed that these cells are again macrophages. So we call that macroglial cells, when it's in the brain, but basically they do the same thing. They are what we call phagocytic cells. And so this is the same principle that in cystinosis. We showed this is the same thing happening. And again, we wanted to see if we had a transfer of normal frataxin from the hematopoietic stem cell we treat to the diseased tissues. And maybe you will see better here, we showed that, the macroglial cells here in red contain the frataxin, but in blue you see all the neurons here, and all the neurons, 50% of the neurons, for example, in the brain, contain a normal frataxin, showing that you have a transfer of frataxin from these cells to the neurons. So this change a paradigm. Before we think, okay, we have to treat the muscle cells, we have to treat the neurons, here we have to treat the hematopoietic stem cells that become macrophage, and the macrophage can treat themselves, the neurons or myocytes. So it's another approach. So now, as I said, we need to understand if it's the protein that is transferred, if it's the mitochondria, how are they transferred, and this is very key for any subsequent treatment. We need to understand that. So that's why I said before you're rushing doing something, let us understand what's going on. The preliminary data we have, we work with collaborators at UCSD, when we transfer, we put our frataxin tag with the GFP in our macrophages, is that it seems like, when we stain the mitochondria in red, it seems like the mitochondria migrate with the frataxin, so the frataxin and the mitochondria are carried together, and that's the one that are transferred into the cells. So we are doing a lot of study in vitro and in vivo to show this principle. But it's still work in process. So what do we have to do now? As I said, we have to determine the mechanism. But what we want to do is now developing the ex vivo gene therapy approach. So exactly what I showed you with cystinosis, we need to be able to correct the stem cells and ex vivo and to find the best approach for Friedreich ataxia to rescue a normal expression of a protein and a normal function of the cells. So this is what we are doing now. We have to, then when we determine that in vitro, we have to go into the mouse model and show, use the stem cell that have been rescued and show that we can rescue the phenotype of the mice. We also need to study if in older mice, do exactly the same thing in older mice and see if we can rescue more advanced disease symptoms. So this is something we don't know yet. And as I said, we need to fully characterize the mechanism of action. So you see, we still have some work to do. And once we have the best approach, then we do exactly what we've done for cystinosis to go from the bench to bedside and hopefully to the phase 1 to clinical trial. So I just want to acknowledge everybody in my lab, and you will see Céline Roca, who is over there, and she is the leader on this project in my lab. We have also Spencer and Joseph, who works on this project. I want to acknowledge all our collaborators, and I'm happy to announce that we are newly funded by the FARA Foundation. So this will accelerate greatly our work. And so thank you. And thank you for your invitation.
What kind of schedule for FA would you anticipate?
So I think the unknown here is the best ex vivo gene therapy approach. Once we know, because we have several leads, we are trying several approaches in parallel to see which one works the best. And I think that's the only unknown, so I'm hoping that, within a year, hopefully we should know. And if this is done, after we know exactly the path that we have to do to go to an IND. So I think, to be realistic, it will be between 2 to 3 years. So total maximum it should be 4 years, if everything goes fine.
That was my question. But I will say that I am, myself and Vlad had the opportunity to visit your lab. Thank you for inviting us, and we met your incredible team, and it just made me very confident in what you're doing. You have an amazing team, and thank you. We're very proud of you.
Thank you very much, Kai. And I do have an incredible team. All right, thank you. Sorry.
I have one more. The study in older mice, when do you anticipate the results of that being out?
So, that's my issue, the mice model for Friedreich ataxia are really a pain. The best, from my point of view, the best mouse model we have are the YG8R, but only 10% of the mice have the right genotype, so it's few, and they stopped breeding, so we had to revive them, and now we still have a problem with breeding. And said, so we could have started a long time ago, because we don't need to wait for gene therapy approach. We just need to use the wild type cells to start that. Except that we have a problem of having the mice, so we started. Now we are working with the FARA Foundation, so we have a device. So we got the MCK mice. So we want to test on the MCK mice, and because they are very fast, so we want to treat them, and if it works, we will be able to answer this question quickly. But if they might not be the best model, CK mice. There is the unknown, and it's because of the mice. It's not because, it's not an easy model. But we are trying several models, and any advice on, anyone who knows other kind of mice, we are ready to test them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
If you've done gene therapy and it's not that successful, can you then do the stem cell therapy, or are you excluded?
So what you mean is that if we try the autologous transplant of these things and we cannot optimize it, can we still do the allogeneic transplant? Yes, it could be still an option if we show that it's successful. So if, let's say, we cannot figure it out, the best gene therapy approach, allogeneic transplant is an option. If we show that the mechanism of action allow it, we show that if we take the cells from someone else, we still have a rescue and we still have a transfer. And this is what we are trying to figure out. So it could be an option.
I was just wondering,
How do the stem cells cross the blood-brain barrier?
So that's a very good question. That's the beauty of cells, is that they can cross anything, and the blood-brain barrier is not an issue, and they can cross it. And I think it depends on the disease also, For some diseases, they will be more efficient to reach, the brain than others. And I have to say that with free ataxia, the kinetics, the speed and the amount of cells going to the brain and spinal cord is much more than even cystinosis. So, we're talking about inflammation, and because this is also something we do in our lab, is to try to understand the mechanism, why the cells respond, what are the signals that they are responding to. Inflammation we think is a big part of it. And we think that in the case of phrenic ataxia, the signal is so strong that the cells are really going fast. For instance, for cystinosis, we have to wait for 4 months to see a response, positive response of the cells. In phrenic ataxia, in 2 months, we already saw, the mice were already, rescued. So it's a much faster process even. So, but that's why I think the hematopoietic stem cells are a great tool. It's because they really go where they have to go, and there is no barrier. Thank you.